Okay, part 22. This is a big one. I'm going to have a go at the dynamic video overlays. I've written a PRD for this. Let's take a quick read through it, then we'll set it up. This application contains a processing pipeline to edit videos. It already supports some advanced use cases like color grading, captioning, and trimming silence from videos. I want to extend this with the capability to edit in video overlays generated dynamically from a Remotion module. I'll explain all this in a second. Conceptual design. I envisage a multi-stage process to achieve this. 1. Generate overlays. A new script will run after 08 detect shorts that reads the manifests and assets generated by the script, that should say pipeline, so far, and determines which overlays to apply. For example, an initial sequence of overlays that will apply will leverage the chapter timings in job manifest JSON file, content assets.chapters, to generate a sequence of video animation files for each chapter that simply fade in, and the chapter text, that's a typo, simply fade in, let's do that, fade in the chapter text, and then fade it out after a couple of seconds. I'm giving this a simple use case to start with. These overlays will be generated based on a new Remotion-based framework that will exist under source Remotion, which I've already added. You can see it there. In this example, there will be a single chapter subtitle component that is responsible for the animation, taking in parameters for the content that will appear in it. It's going to be a React component. In fact, let's tell it that as well. And I'll say Remotion React component. Just little hints of specificity help. That is responsible for the animation, taking in parameters for the content that will appear in it. So in this case, this is just going to take a title for a chapter. What I want to build on this is, hey, take a whole bunch of info that I may want to create a animation effect for in different ways. Under this design, I anticipate adding future components that also create video animation files for different use cases in the future. Let's go that. Also create additional video animation files for different use cases in the future. And I'll say to append to the main video for different use cases in the future. When finished, generated overlays should be stored in the workspace folder and added to the manifest with start timing as further information to be processed later on. All animation files should be 1080p videos with background transparency so they can overlay onto the existing video. That's number 1. A lot of detail there. I'm going to come back over this. Number 2, render overlays. The 9 render split screen main output would then be extended to read this new section from the manifest and augment the existing FFmpeg process to apply these overlays to the final rendered video. I'm going to make that less specific, the existing rendering process. So a lot of stuff going on here. What is Remotion? Let's start with that. So I mentioned this in one of the previous videos on the series, but basically it's make videos programmatically, and it's React. So you can create React components, animate them, and generate video. Most folks, I suspect, are using this to generate bumpers, logos. I want to do that for the channel. I Googled this, and it is able to generate transparent videos. So like these animations you're seeing on screen, in theory, you'd be able to render a video that just has that part of the animation, and then I can layer that over the top of what I'm doing, and you'd see it coming on screen. This is the biggest technical risk in this experiment, so to speak, because even if it does it, it may be crap quality. So this is a risky one. This is why we're doing this near the end. Everything's working. This will either work or it won't. So this is Remotion. So it's very, very cool. the way I've kind of described the setup for this, I think Remotion is such a kind of beast of its own. I don't want to like combine this in the front end or anything. It's kind of a separate concern. I know Remotion you can execute via a terminal command. So once it has the setup, assuming it works, you can literally go Remotion render video, pass it parameters, and it'll spit them out, which is what I expect this to do. So the idea here in this first sort of proof of concept I'm asking Claude for is, let's just take the chapters and generate out the title. And I guess my expectation is I will get, say there's 10 chapters, I'll get 10 little transparent videos and the timings they would overlay. That's the output of the generate overlays. In 2, the rendering process has then got to pick those up and go, oh, I need to overlay title 1 at 2 seconds. I need to overlay title 2 at 20 seconds, and so on and so forth. If this works, I would then extend this. So where I talked about this having a single React component for this chapter subtitles, there's loads and loads of other ideas I've got for how this could generate additional overlays for the video. Another thing this could do is, rather than generate the title as an overlay to the video, I could literally get it to render like a short interim segment that cuts into the video, and then each video will be cut into parts with a little break to cut up the, chop up the fire hose that is me speaking. The other thing I was thinking it could do is a progress bar. You've seen this on YouTube where folks have chapters and they literally have an animation of the chapter, so you know, oh, how long is there left in this chapter before I get to that one. You'd see that over the top of the video. Very, very doable, because then you just you pass in a duration, and it'll go, oh, okay, this chapter is 3 minutes long. I've got to render a 3-minute video with a progress bar that goes from 0 pixels to 1920 pixels within 3 minutes. Not complicated. What this starts to infer is you may be in a situation where there's multiple overlays. So you've got one, then another, then another. I don't know whether that's technically possible. I suspect it will kill FFmpeg. I'm not going to write that for now. I don't want to overcomplicate this any more than it already is, because this is a hugely complex requirement. And also, this is fairly abstract. Like, I know I'm pointing the PRD a couple of places so Claude knows where to look, but I'm giving this no info on how to set up Remotion. It's going to need to figure all that out, and I'll show you how we're going to get it to do that in a second. So two big risks in this. The pipeline side of things, not worry about. It'll figure all that out, getting the chapter markers, all that. Actually setting Remotion up to generate a video based on a parameter, it should be able to figure that out. Whether the video is correctly transparent and can be overlaid and is good enough quality, that's the main risk. Then risk number 2 is, can that FFmpeg process deal with it, with everything else it's dealing with? Will we need a 3rd stage of generation? And then I'm just making all of this way too complicated. But we've been going okay so far. So this is the PRD. I'm going to check that in. Dynamic overlays PRD. Why am I checking just the PRD in? Because we're going to create a branch for this. So this is going to do some structural damage to this whole repo. So I'm going to create a separate branch and switch to it. And we'll stay on this branch till this is successful or not. If it's not successful, I'll just abandon the branch. So when I talked about feature branches earlier, this is what I mean. Git checkout -b, 2 seconds. Sorry, got distracted. Someone came in. What was I saying? Risk number 2 is just FFmpeg crashing. Oh, no, I've said that. We were talking about the branches. So feature branch, dynamic overlays. If this stuff's up, I'll abandon the branch and continue on. So I've switched to this branch now. You can click that. and then that'll push the branch remotely, which we may as well do. That's the same as going git push origin and the branch name. How do you get the branch name? You go git status. I've got a extension on my bash shell that shows the git branch name, so I can just copy it from there, nice and easy. A couple of git tips. Now, Remotion. Now we're on a new branch. Remotion have agent skills. There's been a few videos about these online. I'm going to add those in the repository. So when I talked about doing structural damage, this is part number 1, because if this doesn't work, then we'll just throw this away. We'll do project, symlink, okay, yep, go. So what I'm expecting this to do under Claude, except no. Ah, crap, it's done it in the wrong place. It's put it in the wrong place. That's fine. We'll just get that, move it up there. That should fix that. Okay. So once Claude gets to work on this, whoa. Okay, that's stuffed up bad. Good start. Let's fix this up. Oh, it's because they were symlinks. Okay, I'm going to pause this, sort it out. Okay, fixed. So what I'm expecting to happen now is Claude should start being able to refer to these skills, which were published by Remotion on how to use Remotion. And I mean, Remotion is all about video animation. So you can see it can do 3D charts, all sorts of stuff. So like we're introducing a whole new level, a whole new dimension to this. I'm not seeing those appear in here. I may need to do a restart here. Can you pick up the new skills in this project? Should I restart Claude? That's kind of a dumb question. And no, it's not doing the right thing. Cool. It's happy, right. So with that installed, that's going to help this with analysis and then execution. So as I mentioned, there's a lot to figure out in this. So we are going to go in plan mode, fresh session, and go analyze this requirement. This is going to take a while. I'll chat for a little bit and then I'll pause again, wait till this finishes, and we'll see what Claude thinks. This may well be the end of it. It may well come back and go, no, you can't do this. This is going to be technically blocked by one of the reasons I just said, or something else I haven't even thought of, with the Claude goes, I'm smarter than you. You're crazy. If you remember in a previous episode, may have been the last one, I knocked out some of those Claude skills I'd added, like front-end dev, because it just goes crazy. I'm not expecting this to be quick. I think this will require a couple of sessions with Claude to knock out, if it can. The code creation for this, I don't know, like sometimes I go, hey, go build this, and I think, oh, it's going to generate loads of code, and then you see what it generates. And it's not that it's particularly clever code, but there's actually not much code there. And the interesting observation for me as a engineer who's written code for 30 years is sometimes it just takes a long time to figure stuff out. So the amount of code you write can often be small, but the amount of time it took you to figure out what to write is large. That is the primary bottleneck that AI is just killing. So all of that, how do I do this kind of figure out time for us software engineers is gone forever. And I have to say, it's awesome. Like you can see in this series, like there's plenty of little bits where I've gone, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I'm not just delegating everything to Claude. But there's a lot of technical things, how's this going to hang together, etc., etc., that Claude can just figure out for you, and more importantly, fill in the gaps in your knowledge. I've gone pretty fast and loose with architecture decisions for this. So there's chunks of how this is built where I haven't been too specific about the architecture, say the UI. So in terms of how it structured React components, how it built the back end, in the planning, I definitely said, oh, okay, you're going to use this web server technology, etc. Don't bother doing any deploy containers, Docker, etc. So some of those decisions I've influenced, but there's numerous chunks of this software architecture that I don't understand and don't really need to. There's key bits, certainly the video pipeline I know very well, not every line of code in that pipeline, but I can go in and go, okay, what have they done here? What have they done here? But yeah, this is going to be a great big blot of code that Claude creates, which I'll understand. It's going to be React. I've coded Remotion before, and we'll see how it works. Okay, I'm going to pause. We'll let this have a think, and I'll pick back up when it's done. Okay, Claude is done planning. Took a little while, but not too long. So compared to that fiasco with the UI, where it took 40 minutes just to do the planning, this has only been a few minutes. So let's have a read. Video pipeline currently has no overlay system. This feature adds chapter title overlays generated as Remotion React animation rendered to transparent ProRes 444 video files. When I researched this on Claude, that's exactly what it mentioned. Transparent ProRes 4444 is the way to do this, so it's got that. Composites those into the final split screen video via FFmpeg. This feature extends the manifest-driven architecture. New step reads chapters, generate overlay clips, stores them in the workplace, and writes a dynamic overlays array to the manifest for the render step to consume. PRD specifies that. Architecture detect shorts. 9 generate overlays. I'm just looking at this. It's got this wrong. I thought I kind of. Oh no, it hasn't. I think it's going to create a new file. We'll find out in a minute. Reads chapters, runs Remotion, writes dynamic overlays to manifest. Step 10. Rename from 9 split screen variant composites overlays. Steps 11 to 13. Rename. Awesome. Key design decisions. Transparent format. FFmpeg reads alpha. Alpha's the transparency natively with no extra flags. Animation timings. Fine. Configurable in YAML. I don't care about that. I'll probably hard bake that into the component. Remotion invocation. Python calls npx remotion render. That's what I was talking about as subprocess per overlay clip. That could get interesting. FFmpeg compositing. Set PTS blah 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 delays the overlay stream. Overlay format. Chains multiple overlays. Overlays generated unconditionally all modes for compositing only in split screen main render. Cool, that's fine. I'm not going to support the non-split screen anymore. I may refactor that later. Actually, no, I might change that. So I did a little renaming over here, right? So the normal webcam baked into the 1080p video is render default outputs, but then with this split screen approach I'm doing, there's 2 scripts, split screen main, split screen shorts. So it's saying it's only going to put it in split screen. We'll let this do this for now. It will be an easy refactor later to get both working. Files to create. That's going to set up Remotion. Not much to it. Root, chapter overlays, chapter overlay.tsx. So the idea here is that component it's generating, I will do more. I'm not sure it's quite got what I want to be able to do here, but we'll let this build proof of concept and then we can refactor. New pipeline step. Let's have a look at this. Load manifest. If no chapters, return MPX on Remotion, read overlays, build props, subprocess render, append to dynamic overlays, type path, start seconds title, save manifest with dynamic overlays, done. And it's going to store in a new folder called overlays. Perfect. Some renames, fine, modify. I bet that breaks a load of stuff. So this is where I find sometimes AI can stuff up. If it's renaming variables and things, I'm going to keep these here in case I need to do a bit of renaming later. Modify. I don't know what this is going to do, but fine. Wonder what's going to happen once we get into overlaying overlays. Insert a stage 1.5 between webcam compose and editorial cuts, stage 2. Modify pipeline. Yep, it's got that. Modify common. Edge cases, no chapters, fine. This is the bit that could get interesting. ProRes Alpha plus hardware encoder. Alpha consumed during compositing. Final H.264 output is opaque. Not sure what that means. But if we've got that far, that'll be easy to fix and it's good. So it understands it. Let's go. I can do a auto accept because it's a fresh branch. If it stuffs up, it's fine. I'll pause in a sec while this chugs away because this is going to take a while. Couple of other use cases I thought of while this was planning. So captions. So the way I've done captions, that's using this native feature of FFmpeg to burn in the captions. If you're familiar with the way CapCut does it, it does a real cool thing where it kind of does a karaoke effect on the words. So it will go, as you put the words on screen, they'll highlight those yellow, or you can zoom in. Like CapCut's captions logic's very, very cool. So they've obviously spent a bunch of time on that. I'm not sure you could do that out of the box with FFmpeg. What I've got out of the box for captions with FFmpeg is perfectly fine. But this is the type of thing I could get this doing. So I could easily extend this and go, okay, I want to do captions as well. Let's get that going. The other thing I really want to do is like an AI augmentation of what I'm talking about. So we've already got narrative analysis going, right? So everything I talk about in a video is going through that narrative analysis pipe where it's coming back and going, here's some context about what you're saying. It's no big leap to extend that to go every minute or so, generate some kind of commentary or factoids, info, fact checking about what I'm saying, and put that in a, like the chapters, in an array of factoids that I could then just pick up and generate kind of fly-in overlays for that augment these videos with information that's coming from AI. That's another thing I could do with this. I've got kind of two ideas about how I want to do that though. So there's another project I'm going to work on after this where I might try and do this in real time. So stay tuned for that. But these are the type of use cases I can think of. And of course, you could get into image generation, bringing in images, all sorts of stuff. So if it works, it'll be powerful. Another thing I was just thinking about as I was talking about the captions is I may be approaching this in the wrong way. In that if we get in a scenario where there's multiple overlays and one's on top of the other, so example of that might be if I do a progress bar at the top and then I want to bring in a title, that would be two overlays. So although visually that's not too conflicting, we're going to be going to FFmpeg, hey, start this one at second 1 and this one at second 2, and they both overlay. That might make FFmpeg sweat a bit. What I could do is get Remotion to just bake all the overlays at the same time. So it would make the Remotion setup a bit more complicated. But I think it would be easy to debug, because if there's then just a script that feeds Remotion with, hey, I want all this, I could run the Remotion render by itself and get the output of the overlay without having to render that and then wait for the final video. So we may do that. That may be easier. And then this final FFmpeg step would just render one transparent video over the lot. So we'll see. We'll see. That's probably the better way to go, depending on how this goes. The thing that worries me though is if Remotion's timings are off, it could mess things up. So we'll see. All right, I'm going to let this run. I'm going to pause. We'll come back once it's done or broken or blocked. Okay, complete. It hasn't taken too long. I've only been paused like a couple of minutes. So what's it built? Files created, Remotion project, new pipeline step, number 9, files renamed, files modified, render split screen main output, added apply dynamic overlays, overlays added, yada, yada, yada. Before running step 9 for the first time, cd into Remotion and install. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's run that. So that's to set up the node dependencies for Remotion. It would have probably been easier if I'd done this under the UI and had one set of dependencies. But easy to keep it like then the UI and Remotion are bound together. So Remotion's going to have its own node modules. Front end's going to have its own node modules. That's fine. Now, let's kick off this. Can you give me a script to invoke in Bash? It's probably going to be the same as all the others, but just in case there's something crazy. So all this is going to need to change. One liner. Yep, just job ID. So it'll be the same as all the others. I was talking about it not updating some of the files it's renamed. So we'll go and fix those up because you didn't do it, Claude. Where's my PRD? If I don't do this now, it'll be a nightmare later. So old name, new name, search for that. So there's all the places it hasn't renamed it. Let's just check it has done that. So 10 render default. Yeah, so all of those have been incremented by 1. So in VS Code, I can go Control-Shift-F, find the old name, and then if you hit that, I can do this, search replace, and that's going to upgrade every code reference from the old one to the new one. And then I just need to do that for each of these. Yeah, so it's stuff like this that is kind of basic that AI has messed up on. Not messed up, but missed. It may be to do with how I prompt. So because I try and keep it narrow, I like to kind of prevent it trying to read the whole code base. That's why I don't spend much on a Claude subscription, I think. I think the other thing is having a good agent file for the whole project that knew about this and is updated, maintained, would have prevented that maybe, but there's always going to be mistakes. Ultimately, this is really past the point of where it should have tests. much more tests that would check for this stuff and go, hey, this is just broken. I'm going to run this. I bet the UI doesn't work. We'll need to shut the UI down because it won't load anyway. So it's got the chapters, and in theory, it is chugging away with Remotion and spitting out some kind of small video. It's certainly taken its time. There's maybe a bug already because I'm only expecting a short video. Yeah, it's done it. There you go. Let's have a look. So obviously it's in the wrong place. We don't want it bottom left. That's all easy to cure. Because it's React, I can style this however I want. So I'm going to get it to change the font. We'll get it to pick up the font, the captions used from the config. We'll probably get like a background in. And then, you know, it's just down to me to design and make those animations as, you know, extravagant as I want them to. But it's working. So step number 1 has worked. So generated 13 overlays. And then in theory, what did it say for updating the manifest? Let's just check the manifest and see if they got updated. I don't think they have. Yep, they have. Look at that. Type, chapter, path, start time, duration, title. Title's kind of irrelevant. Let's see what's going to happen with that. That's then going to go into render split screen, apply dynamic overlays. Whoa. And then, yeah, this is building up yet another FFmpeg command to run over this. Let's run it. Which one did I pick? 10 vibe editor FFmpeg fixes. I don't think this is a mega long one. It might take a while though, so I'll pause while it renders. So now we'll do render split screen main. This one. Just leave the crash, compose HD webcam overlay. Imagine if this works first time. Okay, you can see what it's doing. I'll just pause, let it finish. Okay, it's finished. I haven't looked. I haven't taken a peek and seen what it's done yet. One thing that's a little bit of a problem is this has introduced more layers of intermediate rendering. So it's done, I think, 3 renders to get the final one, which may be what it needs to do. So we have, I think it just deleted them. Let's see what we've got. I'm not going to play. Yeah, there it is. Wow, it frickin' works. Look at that. Okay, back again. Super quick video on problems I'm having with. Yeah, look at that. Use it. So all those chapter markers, silicon, which is an integral. I don't think I've changed a line of code. It's just done it. Wowzers. That's really crazy. So now I have this working. I have the bones of a system to do more than one overlay. I think I will work on the AI info augmentation. Let's do a couple of quick fixes to this before we close out on this particularly successful adventure. So because this is now just React, it's very easy to tweak the design. So you got this component chapter overlay, and the design is baked straight onto it. So its location will be as simple as changing those flex values. So justify content is what's putting it at the bottom, I think, and then align items is what's putting it on the left. So if I want it on the right, that'll be flex end. If I want it up the top, which I do, that'll be flex start. So that will move these tiles top right. I said fade in. I didn't really care, just as a test. I may make it slide in or do something like that, but I'm kind of okay with the fade in. This is how it styled it. So it just made its own decisions in terms of styling. Font size is probably a bit too big. I can imagine some of the titles are going to go quite long. They'll go straight off the screen. So I'll probably bring that down. We'll start with 36. I'll keep that there and see how that goes. Font weight, yep, 700 is going to be bold. We'll keep that. So font family, I'm going to pull this in from config, but just for the moment, I'll just hard code it. Text shadow, might lose the text shadow, and then background. So it's given it a slightly transparent background. So RGBA, red, green, blue, that'll be black, keep that. And then an alpha of 0.55, which is like halfway opaque. I'm gonna make that just very slightly opaque, so about 85 will mean it's still black, but you can just see through it. Padding, how much the black is around the text, we'll keep that, that's okay. Border radius, I'm gonna do 0, I don't want a border radius. Max width, 70%. Okay, so what I just said about font size might be wrong. We'll see. And then line height. Ah, okay, so it's going to do a max width, and then if the text overflows 70% of the width of the video, it'll do 2 lines. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Still want the font size smaller, that's too big. There you go. So that'll work. I'm not going to re-render it now. I know that will work. I probably made a mistake, but I'll be on the right lines. But this is how easy it's going to be. In terms of adding more, how has this done this? So it starts off with this root. Calculate metadata is a Remotion thing. So that's it calculating how long is it going to run. It's got the codec, you see ProRes, 4444 for the alpha, composition, ID chapter overlay, component chapter overlay, duration, props. So to extend this, this will need some kind of switch. So where are the default props? So I think they just come in off a command line argument. It hasn't added a test script, because what I should be able to do is start this Remotion project up and load Remotion Studio. And we might take a look at that because it's easy to do while we're here. So if I go source, front end, sorry, not front end, Remotion, and then npm run studio, this should start Remotion up. Fine. There you go. So that's Remotion Studio. This comes out the box with Remotion. So if you were building a React component manually, you have this UI for it to show you what it looks like. So this is like going to be how I build the overlays. So you can already see those changes I made. It's picked the font up. It's moved it in the right location. What else did I do? The opacity is correct. It's much blacker. Fonts may be a little small. So this becomes much easier to debug. So I don't need to go and re-render the whole video just to change the stylings of the overlays. So I can go back in there. Let's push the font up. Let's go 42. One thing I want to do, letter spacing. I'll set that to 0 initially. And then has that recompiled? I go 3. Undo that. Let's make that something stupid. Yep. Letter spacing. Let's go 3 points. Yep. So just putting a bit more spacing between the characters. They're too close together. If I make that 1.5, that looks okay. I'm starting to think that was actually, whoa, forgot the comma. Yeah, I think we'll keep it about there. And I might change the font. That looks good on captions, but it looks a bit shit on screen. Like, look at those E's. You can barely see it. Overlays, done. Very cool. I'm gonna have to think about how I want to use this. I may have a go at doing the AI overlays. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have a look at that rendering pipeline and see why it's rendering 3 videos to get the output. And then next part, we'll do the AI overlays.